Welcome to another edition of Motor Talk with Chris, WCAR 98.3.com FM, Automotive Talk Radio. What's up, y'all? I'm Chris One of the Chris One Radio Group. Appreciate you guys for being here. You guys for anywhere else in the world. But you said you want to listen to what I got to say instead, and I definitely appreciate that. Listen, if this is your first time to the channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button. In addition to that, hit that notification bell and give me that thumbs up, man. It's free. You can give it to me for free, all right? Got something I want to talk about today. Last week, General Motors did the unthinkable. Finally, after its long-awaited debut, what General Motors did, General Motors released the 2020 mid-engine Corvette. But I'm here to tell you, I'm here to give you two reasons as to why I just don't trust GM enough to purchase or give my BMW 50 up for a mid-engine Corvette. All right? I just can't do it. All right? My friend keep telling me, hey, man, go on and give that car up, get you that traded in on that Vet. I can't do it. But I'm going to tell you why. People, when you are educated on an issue, it is hard for people to get to understand why you're really not, the hype. It's just not, you're not being hyped up by the hype. Let's just say that. All right. And because I know GM, because I can give you two reasons as to why, but I'm going to throw in this. When automotive companies had the buyout, General Motors, a company that was far bigger than Dodge, needed a bailout. If you didn't know this, let me be the first to tell you. General Motors needed to make at least $23,000 plus some change to get a profit off of every car that they had assembled. Why? You know why? Poor management. GM had worked themselves into somewhat of a quagmire, and this is why they needed the buyout. Because I think 60%, I could be exaggerating, but let's just say 60% of their profits was given to people that weren't even working anymore. So why would I want to buy a car? Why would I want to buy product from a car company with that type of track record? Now, here's the two reasons. That was just a bonus. I'm going to talk to you about two things, two engines, the 4100 and the North Star. These are engines that Cadillac put into production without really giving it some burn, and the consumers was hit with a bunch of flaws. So what I'm going to do now is I want to talk about the 4100. Now, the 4100 is an engine that was dubbed the V468 or V864, okay? What is a V864? The V864 is an engine that General Motors brought into production, and the primary reason for the V864 was fuel, all right? What GM, listen, they always had great ideas when it came to cars. It's just that they thought of an idea on Tuesday and they wanted it in production on Wednesday and wanted it at market at dealerships by Friday. When you put that combination together, it never works. Let me tell you something as a throw-in. When the 2026 or 27 Mercedes is being built in 2019. Mercedes stay way ahead of their production ideas, okay? All right, take heed to that. General Motors, their production ideas is probably a year out. Whatever is on market now, they just thought of it last year. You don't want to buy a car maker. You don't want to buy an introduction product from a maker with that type of mentality. So the 4100 other known as the V864, an engine that was produced for 5 years from 1982 to 1987. The V864 is an engine that was designed that when you first took off that big land yacht, it was in 8 cylinders. And then what happened was a computer was supposed to tell the engine, hey, listen, buddy, we're coasting along. We really don't need 8 cylinders no more. You can go ahead and shut off 2 cylinders. So now you're working on a V6. And then after you get coasting on the highway and you just really, need to idle, the engine would say, well, how are we looking? Are we looking good? Go ahead and shut off 2 more cylinders. Now you're working on a V4. Here's the problem when General Motors decide to build a product and don't test it. What happened was you're driving down the highway, start going on an incline, and guess what? The computer wasn't smart enough to say, hey, listen, turn on the other 4 cylinders because we're going up a hill. The car would just continue to coast as a 4-cylinder, and then what you got is a 22-foot long car that weighs 6,000 pounds going up a hill with a 4-cylinder engine. When you know this, you don't think fond of General Motors like I do. Now, a lot of people may say, well, that was something that happened in the past. You can get along. People, this is only 2 engines that I'm talking about in the long history of crappy GM engines, which ultimately leads to crappy GM products. I don't like GM, all right? Now I want to talk about the North Star. Oh, God. People, I'm going to tell you something. They have fancy names, but let me tell you something about the North Star engine. You'll be lucky, I say, if you brought one prior to 2000, if in fact it didn't if you use less than a quart of oil every 500 miles. But I'm going to go ahead and say this when it comes to the North Star engine. It was a kick-ass engine. Oh, it was bad. It was, right there where it needed to be. Um, um, excuse me. When we talk about the North Star engine, was it ahead of its time? Yeah, it was. But it just had problems. And here's what I say it had problems. Now you gotta know, wow, you gotta know engines to know. Let me see something. You gotta know cars to know how to nitpick. Okay. Now let's be clear about something. I'm gonna say this. The North Star engine had 275 horsepower at 6,000 RPMs and 295 foot-pounds of torque. Now, let's be clear about something. That was kick-ass for its time. It was. I'm not going to lie and say it's not. But if you're burning a quart of oil every 500 miles, that's just not what it is. In addition to that, the engine was poorly engineered. People, if any other car that you own, when your starter went, you crawled up under there, you jacked the car up, you shoved a rock up under the damn wheel, you crawled up under there with a ratchet, an extension, and a socket, and you put 2 bolts, you drop the starter out, you put a new starter in, takes a half an hour at the most. Excuse me. Let me tell you what General Motors did with this North Star. General Motors took this North Star engine. I just get lightheaded thinking about it. General Motors took the North Star engine and they put the starter inside the damn engine. Inside the fucking engine. So you had to get the engine pulled damn near just to change the starter. And you want me to go ahead and trade my BMW 50 in on a North Star? I'm sorry, on a brand new mid-engine? No. People, it's a badass car. It is. The car is kick-ass. It looks insane. I'm not taking nothing from it. I'm just not going to buy one first edition. The car, listen, for $60,000, you just can't beat it. And that scares me more than anything. It scares me that in a year from now, I'm going to hear about all the people that brought the first generation mid-engine Corvette only to hear, well, it was in the dealership longer than it was on the road. Oh, this went wrong and that went wrong. I just don't trust GM. People, I mentioned 2 engines, but 3 issues with General Motors. There is a long, long, long list of issues that GM have with vehicles that they brought to market. It's just simply the way it is. This is why General Motors had to shut down a lot of divisions, because they just had so much going on. And I just don't trust GM. I don't. The mid-engine Corvette, it's a beautiful car. I just don't trust General Motors. I just don't trust them. Appreciate you guys for listening to this edition of Automotive Talk with Chris, WCAR 98.3.com FM. I am Chris One. I'm signing off. Later, y'all.